Now, the Prime Minister is to address the annual conference of the Confederation of British Industry within the next hour. The big business lobby group has been campaigning for an updated shortage occupation list to allow more foreign workers to plug labour shortages here in the United Kingdom. This comes, of course, as reports suggest that senior government figures are planning to put Britain on the path towards a Swiss-style relationship with the European Union, accepting many regulations from the bloc into British law, something the government has firmly denied. Now, while the Prime Minister addresses the Remain campaigning CBI this morning, this afternoon, the Eurosceptic European Research Group is to hold its regular Monday meeting in Westminster. Oh, to be a fly on the wall there. Well, let's explore the week ahead for the Prime Minister and particularly his speech next hour with John Rentoul, the chief political commentator for The Independent. And, John, this came a little bit out of the blue, this story in the Sunday Times that has now bled into other papers this morning. Firm denials from the government, and yet there does seem to be a bit of a ring of truth that there are people in government searching for closer relationships with the European Union.
Yeah, people in so-called senior circles, which I wonder whether those senior circles include the Chancellor himself, because it was Jeremy Hunt who on Friday, I think, on the radio, he was doing a round of interviews after the autumn statement, and he came up with this extraordinary phrase about being confident that he could remove the vast majority of trade barriers between us and the EU. So we were all scratching our heads as to what that could possibly mean when the Sunday Times produced this, which they defend as an extremely well-sourced story. So I assume it comes from the Chancellor himself, directly or indirectly, in which case I can't work out what he's playing at.
Now, some people are terming this Chequers 2.0, because, of course, if we remember back to Chequers in the summer of 2018, the whole plan from Theresa May was to stay in the regulatory orbit of the European Union, but clamp down on migration, something that the leading Brexiteers said was simply not Brexit. It was a misunderstanding of the Brexit vote to think it was all about immigration, because to the leading Brexiteers in this country, it's predominantly about sovereignty, about making our own laws. And Chequers wouldn't have allowed us to do that.
Oh, no, that's nonsense, Tom, as you know. I think the Chequers compromise was a sensible compromise, and it's a great shame that Labour MPs voted against it, because it would have produced what these senior circles seem to want, which is removing trade barriers between us and the EU. But that's not the route we went down. So, and I don't think we can go back. So I'm not quite sure what Jeremy Hunt is playing at.
I suppose the big problem here is that either you do regulatory divergence and you change your rules domestically to make yourself more competitive, to offset the undoubtable trade barriers that come from changing those regulations, or you mirror the regulations of the European Union and you enjoy perhaps a more regulated economy, so less dynamism and growth domestically, but easier trade with the EU. It seems like at the moment we're doing neither. This government is refusing to do the regulatory divergence, the supply-side reform, the scrapping of EU rules to make us more dynamic domestically. But it's taking on all the costs of not aligning to EU rules with none of the benefits.
Well, I think that's quite a good analysis, actually, Tom. I mean, I don't agree with you that I don't think there are any huge benefits to be gained from regulatory divergence. I don't see the point of it, and there obviously isn't any point in it, or else we would have done it. So I would have thought that a closer relationship with the EU was in our economic interest, and if we could have that without being part of the political structures of the EU and without being part of the free movement area, I would have thought that was where the British people would actually prefer to be.
Fundamentally, there's a political difference here, isn't there? There's a group of people in the Conservative Party who want Singapore on Thames, who want a much more deregulated Britain, lower tax, enterprise zoning, sort of Liz Truss-style enterprise economy. And then you've got the sort of perhaps Jeremy Hunt view of the world, which is much more steady and less dynamic.
Well, yes, but Singapore on Thames was never a workable option, and the people pursuing that are pursuing a daydream. But I mean, we don't need to get into the political argument about this. I mean, what is the point of reopening all these arguments now under a prime minister who, the one strong point he has with the Conservative Party is that he was an original Brexiteer, and to reopen all these arguments seems to me an extraordinary political misjudgment.
It is interesting because, of course, we are expecting perhaps Rishi Sunak to try and slap down some of this speculation himself. He's speaking, I believe, at around 10:15. What do you expect his main message to the CBI to be today?
Well, it'll be the usual platitudes, I fear. And everybody will be looking for detailed text analysis of what he says about immigration and the CBI's demand that we should have more of it. Although, it's running at more than 200,000 a year. That was what the OBR forecast for the autumn statement was based on. And I think most British people would say that was high enough. And so I think he's going to resist pressure from the CBI to increase immigration further. And that will presumably satisfy most of his backbenchers.
Well, it'll be a fascinating speech to watch. We'll be bringing it live to our viewers here on GB News. But for now, John Rentoul, thank you very much for joining us this morning on The Briefing.